Hey guys, welcome back to the Firsties podcast. I'm your host MILA.
And I'm your host MILA.
If you're new here, if you're a Firstie,
we're basically a safe space for first gens who dare to dream.
We like to laugh, kiki, argue.
Basically, two baddies with a mic.
Thank you so much for tuning in.
Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
Now let's get into this episode. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Firsties. So for the audio listeners, it's a MILA only epi this time. HERMELLA, you were missed. Loved you down. So just to jump right into this episode, when I was prepping for this episode, because it's been a while since it's just been me. I noticed that from one of our episodes called Firsties Are We Good? It's basically just an episode where we kind of started to talk about our mental health and just overall kind of our experience with mental wellness and even growing up as a first gen. And then I also noticed that we do have new subscribers and listeners on Spotify. So I thought this might be a good time to reintroduce us, especially going into the winter season soon, fall season as well. Because during that time, usually people start to kind of really lock in with podcasts and different shows. So I thought, why don't we just like run it back real quick? So when I was prepping for this episode, first thing I was thinking about was like how I've been feeling lately. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, I've said this a gajillion times. Life right now is lifing in the best way possible. So what I mean by that is I'm living in my answered prayers right now, but it is not what I thought it was going to be. Because of course, when you make plans, you already know who laughs, right? God laughs. So although I'm very grateful, it's just not, when you imagine, a destination or achieving your dreams, you imagine a specific way. I don't know why. Probably some health professional can tell me why, but I don't know why, but you just imagine it that way. And then you also imagine how you feel in the moment when you finally get there. For some people, it might be becoming a parent. For some people, it might be becoming a homeowner. For some people, it might be leaving that relationship. Whatever it is, you imagine a specific way. And so what we don't consider is how our physical being and our mental being, and honestly our spiritual being is, because for someone like myself, sometimes I could focus on the external parts, meaning like how hard I'm working, the job that I have, the podcast, all these things. So it really, when I was prepping for this episode, I had to really kind of look inward when it came to like my mental health. Now, that is a major buzzword on all podcasts, on all shows, and all social media, honestly. But nobody really talks about like mental wellness, right? And I found that before, when I was prepping for this episode, I found that when I was like, okay, what is my earliest memory of mental health or mental wellness, or even that like those words. And if I'm honest, I thought I worked through this and I already rewired my brain, but I guess I didn't completely. When I was younger, I thought like a person prioritizing their mental health, I thought that was a weakness. I just deemed it that. Now, I am a product of my environment and my culture as well. Not saying it's bad or good, but that's just the result of it. And so when I was reflecting, I was thinking about how that little part of thinking that prioritizing your mental health is a weakness, which is absolutely not true, ridiculous. I didn't realize that was still a part of me almost, or just like my framework of my mind. And so it definitely let me see that from my journals and journaling, and honestly just my inner dialogue too, that I've come a long way. Still have some work to do, obviously, we all do. So that was like, I was like, what is my first memory of mental wellness or health? It was literally like, we didn't have the luxury of prioritizing like our mental health. And I'm glad that we're talking about this, just because like the other day I felt a breeze, which tells me that it's going to get colder, and seasonal depression is a real thing, and not getting your vitamin D as much is a real thing, which then impacts your mental health as well. That is a real thing. And seasonal depression, winter depression is an absolutely real thing. So I thought, why not kind of discuss this while we're jumping into that season? And so that was my earliest memory. And I think a lot of first gens, or just honestly anyone, but a lot of people who come from immigrant families where that's very common, where talking about your mental health, or honestly talking about your issues. Let's start there. Talking about your problems. It's not that it's a no-no, because that's what I was about to say, but it's just something that you don't see. Like, I really am a product of my mother and father and all of the experiences that I've had growing up, good and bad. And one of the blessings and kind of the silver lining through this journey is that I have siblings who've gone through similar stuff, because we literally grew up in the same household, even though we're all different people and individual in our own way. And I'm able to like kind of like talk to them about like, hey, I'm feeling this way, or do you recall this happening, or this is how my brain works. How does your brain work? And it's kind of wild. Like, it's kind of wild. I think I've said it before and I'll say it again. Siblings, they're real ones. So now talking about mental health. Now, when it comes to our culture and our upbringings, which is very similar across very different people and religions and things, I find that even now we're still in the discussion of mental health. Like, I still think we're really in the era of conversation, not really like an era of like change or action. But yeah, it's like I think one thing that could help us all is to kind of adjust our framework when it comes to mental health and focus more on mental wellness. Like, for example, going to therapy or understanding your brain and how it's wired. What I mean by that is maybe seeing a healthcare professional to really see how your brain is wired. Not bad or good, just literally how your brain takes in information. That tremendously has helped me, because I remember when I was younger, just the way that I saw the world sometimes was not my reality. And it literally isn't like, I'm about to turn 30 next year, and I'm just now starting to understand how my brain is wired. Just to be able to start using these tools every day, just to make my life easier, and honestly just help with my internal dialogue. It could be as simple as like feeling anxious and then take an inventory of my body to see what stressor or trigger put my body through that kind of stress, and then figuring out how to either, like, I know some people say, my therapist said this, like, make it your friend, or just give it a word. So that way because I feel like a lot of us with depression, anxiety, specifically anxiety in my experience, it's the unknown. Like, something that I absolutely need to work on is, like, I realized I live in the future way too much. It's always like the next Uber, the next plane ride, the next meeting, the next flight that I have to get on, the next day, looking at my schedule. I'm always living in the future. For Firsties, it's really like the next episode, the next guest, the next subscriber, whatever the case is. And I think that's where my anxiety stands from, looking at the news and trying to predict what happens next, or understanding the now so I can predict what can happen next. It's a lot going up here. I'm hoping that anyone who's listening to this can keep up with my basically ADHD, because at this point I'm just rambling. But I mentioned how there are some new subscribers and some new watchers and listeners, which, hi, how are you? Welcome. And originally I started Firsties as kind of a safe space for first gens who dare to dream. And then the brand kind of expanded to, honestly, people who are the first to achieve anything. And that could literally mean anything, like first in their family, to seek out help for mental health issues, start a business, be an athlete, be a musician, like whatever it is. And when I was prepping for this episode, I came across actually a doctor from my home country, Ethiopia, and she was just kind of discussing how we, as the first gens, we have kind of just taken on these phrases that our parents or aunties or the older generation kind of said, and we've just kind of accepted it, because it's very rare that a generation challenges the generation before or after. So, like, for example, understanding when I was a kid, like, oh, yeah, parents are just extremely exhausted every night. Like, yep, that's just, they're hard workers, and they don't really have any self-care, so they have no patience for literally anything sometimes. They're not really taking care of themselves. But you know what? I really admire their work ethic and the fact that they got the job done. And then I've seen that definitely happen in my early 20s and mid 20s as well, where like all that mattered to me was really being productive, and I was very goal oriented, which is a great thing. It is. But like the workout is as important as the rest. And stay with me. Let me land. What I mean is, there's no way that anyone could be like a 24-hour machine. It's just not possible. And for you to really perform at your best, whatever that is, you do have to rest as well. And I think part of that is your physical health and also your mental health. It's going to help as well. And so I remember this when I saw her online, I think she's a psychologist or psychiatrist. She kind of mentioned how, like, take inventory of the things that you just do and you don't really know why you're doing it. It's just something that you either saw or learned when you were younger, and it's okay to challenge that, because times are different. Like, a lot of immigrants can relate to this, or at least children of immigrant parents, where the scarcity mindset, the worth ethic, we get that from our parents. That was necessary maybe like back in the day during like village times. But like, in my opinion, I don't think my parents or my family worked this hard for me to also have these same exact mental health issues or being anxious like back in the day, right? Like, life's pretty good. We have all these blessings. So it's okay to like take a moment for yourself, to do an activity, because I always think like if I'm just not hyper focused, I just won't be successful and I won't win. And honestly, social media sometimes glorifies that or makes it glamorous, but they don't show the other side, which is you don't make time for what's actually important, which is like your family and your friends, your relationships, your faith as well, if you have a faith, and also like your physical health as well. Like, I know people who are extremely successful, right? But their work-life balance is just not it. And they can be tough to work with, or they don't prioritize the more important things, or they could be unkind or unprofessional, whatever it is. And at the end of the day, it's really about the person that you are rather than like what you do. And it took me a while, and I'm still figuring that out as well, because as you guys know, for any of the new listeners, a lot of my identity, I think, lies within my productivity. Like, and I'm examining, based on like my mental health recently, why that is. Like, why on a week that I barely have anything to do, whether it's just like a light week, that I'm like, okay, let me schedule more meetings. Like, what, babes, what are you running from? And I talked about this in another mental health episode, and I think I talked about it with the Maya episode as well. And I really do think it comes from, part of it is honestly just, I mostly feel like part of my identity really comes from like just killing it in whatever I'm doing. Like, who wouldn't want to be successful? Am I right? And also, as a first gen, it's just like you're the golden ticket when it comes to like making sure your family's good. So if I can, if I'm able, then like, yeah, let's do it. If the Lord keeps on blessing me, let's keep doing it, right? So I'm learning to like rewire my brain in that way. And that's where like therapy comes into play, or even talking to a friend and getting things off of your chest. Side note, the way that I'm surprised at how quickly I myself and even HERMELLA and anyone who's come on the show has been like vulnerable on this mic, it's actually kind of insane. Now, we did have some personal DMs from the show, the episode I talked about, Firsties, Are We Good? So I thought, why not, answer it on a separate episode, which is this one here. So again, just want to say really quickly, truly, I think we all need to figure out how our brains are wired, why we do the things that we do, and why we don't do the things that we don't do. And I say that to say, Firsties is a safe space, right? For anyone who dares to be the first to do something. And we obviously encourage people to do what's best for them. And, but obviously we are not mental health specialists. So please take this with a grain of salt and also go to a provider. Por favor. Okay. Don't know why I said it like that, but you guys get it. Okay, I'm going to read some here. Okay, somebody asked, how do you deal with being perceived on social media? Now, I think this is coming off when we talked about on the Firsties Are We Good episode. We kind of talked about how mental health and like social media and like putting yourself out there. If I'm honest, the way that timing is your best friend, and I'll give you some backstory. I thought I was supposed to be here in this seat maybe like 5-6 years ago, right? I'm 29 now. So 5-6 years ago, I would have been 22, 23, 24. And the way that I am so grateful that it did not turn out that way, because I didn't know myself then. I'm still knowing myself now, but I definitely know now what I will tolerate and what I won't tolerate, what I will. And so when I hear like, how are you being perceived? All I can really do is be authentically myself, which can be scary, not gonna lie, and have the best intentions. And honestly, that allows me to sleep good at night. So the few comments that we've had here and there, it's really been very few and far between. Like, our audience is pretty lovely, which is amazing. I honestly kind of chuckle, if I'm honest, like any weird feedback that we've gotten, because it's usually the person who doesn't follow us or isn't keeping up with us really, that just like wants to chime in really quickly and then dip out. Where the person who's like watches our show pretty much religiously, I'll always take your feedback because you've like invested in the show and you kind of know our journey and kind of know the overall picture rather than just this specific like soundbite or clip on social media. So perception, sure. I mean, probably when I was younger, I probably would have crashed out about it. But now I'm kind of just like, I kind of know who I am. I'm learning more and more about myself. But like, I really didn't realize how like the 20s, they're ghetto. For anyone out there who's in their 20s, whether it's like you're early, you're mid, you're late, it is an emotional roller coaster. I don't know what it's like for men, but for women, oh child, let me lay down. It is. You know what it is? I actually knew who I was a long time ago. I just didn't accept it, if that made sense. Like, now I'm making certain decisions in my life that I would have done, honestly, when I was 23 or 22 or even 19, even 17. But I just did it because I didn't accept myself. Like, I was prejudging myself. It wasn't anybody else. So acting this way or acting that way or accepting this behavior, I was just like, oh, I'll just go with the flow. And now it's like I know myself a little bit more. So there's certain things I'll tolerate and other things that I will. And I'm learning that now. And part of the mental health journey and self-care, like the way that I found out that boundaries is a form of self-care, girl, it really is. Like, part of boundaries is literally just showing up for yourself. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Boundaries are not about the other person. They're actually about you. It's the same thing about forgiveness. Forgiveness is for you, not the other person. So a boundary could be, okay, if this person does this, I am leaving, right? That's just an example. That means I'm telling my brain that, first of all, I've already computed that I've ordered my Uber, or I've already, planned my exit. Because if it happens, I'm leaving. So you have to prepare for it. It's not like should be like a manipulative tool to get the person or whatever the situation that you want to happen. It's really for you. It's really for you to show up for yourself. And in a way, it's also an exercise for yourself to build trust within yourself. Like, my no means no, my yes means yes. I know that now. When I was younger, I really just wanted to be part of a community, whatever community that was. I think when we're younger, especially, your younger years, like I'm talking like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, up to basically 17 years old, even 18 years old. you're really just trying to find like your sense of self. And because that is so confusing, because you're literally a teenager, you're literally a child, you find it within other people, or like you just want to find your belonging is probably the word I was looking for. You just want to belong somewhere, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends, whether it's a community, whether it's a certain skill or sport or band, whatever it is. And so I think part of that mental health journey is like accepting who you are for who exactly for who God created you to be. Sometimes my brain works faster than my literal mouth. So sometimes I catch myself. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. Okay. Another question here. Let's see here. How would you define healing? So this is where I would like sub in a mental health specialist. No, I'm joking. So here's the thing, is I think on social media, like one person like defines one word and then runs with it, and it becomes like a trend almost. We see that all the time, especially when it comes to like mental health. First of all, we all know that with mental health, it's never linear. For everyone, it looks completely different. Like one day I'm up as far as understanding myself. The other day I'm like confused as heck. Did I make the right decision? It's just up and down. That's literally just life. It's just me growing and learning more about myself. I always say I'm only on my 29th year of learning MILA, so I'm still trying to be an expert on what MILA needs and wants. But I would say I honestly could not define healing because it really depends on the person. I will say, though, sometimes healing can be as simple as reprogramming your mind. Sometimes healing can be as simple as unlearning that rest is not laziness. That's something that I'm working on that I talked about earlier. That vulnerability is not being weakness. It's not a weakness. I just wrote some notes that I'm reading here. So healing could be different for every person. I don't think it's a specific thing, like just meditating or just reading your Bible. It could be prayer as well. It could be putting in the effort. It could be going to a self-defense class, and that's where you find your healing. So it could be different for every person. Maybe you find healing in a loving person, maybe. I'm not sure. It's different for every person. But something that I've definitely recognized is that, in my opinion, healing can be literally giving yourself permission to be human. That's what I found. I cannot tell you how many times this year only, I, in my faith, have been humbled in situations to be like, girl, you are not their Lord and Savior. You are not God. So stop trying to play God. Meaning I'd be doing too much, right? Trying to help this person, trying to guide this person. And like, who are you? Do what you can, of course, and leave the rest up to the Almighty. So sometimes I have to remember that, like, girl, you are just one person. So like you literally can't do it all. You'll literally go insane, which I did for a second. Yay, mental health awareness. Yay. Okay, let's see what else is here. Let's see. Someone DM'd just community ? I'm not sure what they meant, but I'll take a stab at it. For someone like myself, which I still need to work on, is like the simple fact of like figuring out on my own almost gave me like a ego high, which like ego is a whole thing. I could do a whole episode on that. And so the biggest lesson I've learned this year is to go to your community, whether it is your faith, your friends, your family, like lean, we're literally wired that way to like be with each other, to have community, to lean on each other for good times and bad. So when it comes to community, I sometimes think that the most powerful thing about community is shared experiences. Like it really is not necessarily like giving advice or taking advice. It's sometimes being like, hey, me too. Like, yeah, that sucks. I went through that too. Or yeah, that in that scenario, oh my God, I went through that as well. You just feel less like alone. And that's like 80% of it, in my opinion, is like you just feel so alone in these moments of anxiety or depression or whatever mental health crisis you're going through. And if someone like the ministry of self or the ministry of just being present is, it really is healing. It can be. And it's very, very remarkable. Ooh, someone asks, what's your best way of helping with your mental health? Now, that's very like a broad kind of question. I will say for anyone, I don't know, for me, I find that doing hobbies, we had a hobbies episode, which made me realize, like, have more hobbies. Like, go do a hobby, seriously. But any, like, creative outlet or being artistic in any way, I think it's you allowing yourself to be a kid again. Like, it's so funny how, like, I don't know if anyone else can relate to this. I hope I'm finding my community when I say this. But when I was younger, like when I was like 8, I really feel like I had thoughts and like the mindset of like a 15-year-old. Like, I think because I just had to grow up quickly and like mature quickly. And then now that I'm in my late 20s, it's almost like I now want to be a kid again. Like, I want to like try different skills or try to learn piano or do artwork and not have a plan on what the art is, or, you know, a painting and not have any plan on what the painting is going to be, if that makes sense. And like being silly and goofy, because when I was younger, it just was like, I just had to like get my work done and go to bed. And so that now that I have my own like independence in a sense, I kind of just want to be a kid again and kind of like make a fool of myself sometimes, if that makes any sense. I hope someone could like relate to that, because that can be very, very niche. But I promise you, when I was younger, it's like in my brain, I was like, I think too anal about things or too serious, when it's like, girl, just be a kid. And then now that I'm older, like I in certain areas of my life, I feel like I take very seriously, and then others I just don't. And I probably need to work on that, but probably has something to do with my upbringing. So I really think that part of that self-care and mental health and wellness is putting yourself in situations where you're able to be a kid again. Because I think when I think being a kid again, I think of being free. I think of like no judgment. I think of like no insecurities. Because when you're 7, like you know nothing about like your body or your hair or the way you talk, whatever. You're just having fun with your friends on the playground, right? And then at a certain point, someone says something new that makes you see yourself differently than others. And of course, that's when the insecurities begin. So I think part of self-care and helping in that mental health journey is going back to being a kid again, whatever that looks like. I hope that lands, and I hope that makes sense. So I can't believe I've been rambling for about 30 minutes. Totally plan on this being like a 20-minute epi. It was a lot that we covered, but I really hope this finds the right audience when it comes to, I literally don't even want to say prioritizing your mental health. I'm just saying like honoring yourself when it comes to like your inner dialogue, and maybe getting a hobby and self-care, whatever that looks, especially because it's getting colder outside. So just be mindful of that. Not everybody, has a family to go home to for the holidays. I'll be thinking and praying for all you guys, but we're getting to that season too. So whatever you have to do to take care of yourself, do that within reason. Let's not get crazy. Thank you to everyone who always listens to this podcast. Again, can't believe that we're over 2 years now. We just hit our 2 years a couple weeks ago, which again, pointing that out, I was living in the future so much that it slipped my mind literally that I'm like, oh my God, we're already at 2 years on Firsties. So, definitely think living in the now will also help honor myself and help with my mental health as well. But thank you so much for listening in, and I'll see you in our next episode. Bye, guys.